Dear friends, today we have with us the Treasurer of New South Wales, Daniel Mookhey, and we are here to talk about the upcoming trip to India. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, you and Premier Chris Minns are traveling to India very soon, and this is Premier Minns' first overseas trip as Premier. So, can you tell us more about the trip and what's on the agenda, and why Premier Minns picked India as his first overseas trip?
Yeah, we're really excited to be going to India. We'll be there for about 10 days in Delhi, in Mumbai, and in Bengaluru as well. And it is the Premier's first international mission, and it's our first joint mission that we are undertaking since we were elected. And the reason why India is because the relationship is firstly very important to New South Wales. Secondly, we're seeing so much more engagement between New South Wales and India, particularly in our business community and through our universities, all of which stems from the decision to sign a free trade agreement. And so we want to do a few things. We want to obviously put our support behind these growing linkages, but we also want to send a clear message to both India that New South Wales is open to business, but also to New South Wales that India is open to business. And this is an important part of our trading future. You can make this really complicated or you can make this really simple. The really simple way of putting it is that we are a nation of roughly 27, 28 million people. We're a state of roughly 8 to 9 million people. And we produce far more than we can consume. So we have to sell our services, sell our resources, sell the intelligence of our people to the world. And India is, of course, a massive market.
Yeah, and Daniel, now the two-way trade between say Australia and India sits around I think $51 billion, and between New South Wales and India is sitting around $6 to $7 billion. So, is there any target that you have in mind, in the sense that one is like a broad-based kind of aim, but is there an objective that the government is looking at, that that in the next couple of years this is the level of trade that we would want with India?
Well, obviously, we want it to grow, we want it to expand, and we agree with the national government's India strategy that Peter Varghese developed, and we use that as a bit of our guiding blueprint. But I'm not just looking for volume of trade, as important as it is. I'm also looking for complexity of trade. I mean, at once upon a time, most of the exchange took place was either really resources or remittances. What I'm interested in seeing is the advanced technology transfer happening between both countries, and really much more enmeshment of our service sectors. And a simple way of describing that is to just back in what we are seeing New South Wales institutions that are doing. I mean, I think one of the best stories is the decision from so many of Australian universities to open campuses in India, whether it's the University of Wollongong in Gujarat, whether it's Western Sydney University in Delhi, or whether it's the University of New South Wales in Bengaluru. And what they're doing is they're opening campuses because actually Australian businesses have opened offices, and they want bespoke training being delivered to Indian students that reflect their needs in India. And I think this is a good sign of maturity and a good sign of complexity developing in our trade relationships with India. Final point is that we're also seeing immense technology transfer happening in the energy sector. India is amongst the world's fastest deployers of renewable energy, and Australian technology is appearing heavily in that supply chain. We, after all, are responsible for creating the modern solar panel, and to see it deployed at scale in India is something which, of course, we want to see how they're doing it, because we also understand that here in Australia, more and more of our economy needs to be powered by clean and green energy too.
Yeah. Yeah, and also since you mentioned technology, I mean, if I could ask, are there any particular sectors that you're looking at? I mean, we have said the education sector, the resources sector, where there's already a lot of trade, but there's a lot of stuff happening in India with regards to defense manufacturing, in space technology, and of course, green energy, as you mentioned. So, are there any specific sectors that you're going to be targeting when you go there?
Yeah, we are going to be talking with all of those supply chains. A few that we are pretty aggressively saying that we want to bed down some better relationships right now is actually aviation. We're opening the Western Sydney Airport in just a few months' time. We do know that India is amongst the fastest growing aviation markets in the world. And we do know that companies like Air India and Indigo are amongst the biggest buyers of airplanes in the world. And we want to see more of them taking off and landing from New South Wales airports, particularly Western Sydney airports, particularly because the diaspora now is so big in both countries and there's a lot of exchange that's taking place. So we think that's one thing where we need to get some quick wins, and we're looking forward to having some good conversations there as well. The other sleeper, which we should not ignore, is actually culture and the creative industries, particularly film. It's a little known fact that a lot of Bollywood post production already takes place in New South Wales. One of the best stories I've heard recently is that as India is producing, I think it's Ranbir Singh is starring in Ramayan and the remake of the Ramayan as well. But a lot of the post production that's taking place as part of that film is taking place from New South Wales. We have said we want to build a second soundstage in Sydney. We want that to be for not just English language films. And as we see massive buyers of content like Netflix, like Amazon, and the likes increase their spending on non-English film and television, we see that there's a big opportunity here for us to really get this on the radar, or a lot of the producers in that film system, just like we are having to do right now with people who are in Hollywood, but people who are in Korean cinema, people who are in Spanish or Latin American cinema as well. We want more and more of that activity taking place here in New South Wales.
Yeah. And what about sports diplomacy? Because when Prime Minister Modi was in Australia, there was a lot of talk on sports diplomacy. And Australia, of course, to quote someone, they said Australia is a superpower in sports. So is that something that's on the agenda as well?
Yeah, we are. I mean, it's very hard to go to India and not find yourself talking about cricket for, very fast as well. But look, I'm not going to be glib about this. It's an incredibly sophisticated business, modern sports these days. As treasurer, I enjoy the game not just for the sport now, but also for the opportunity that it is presenting. And the rise and rise of the IPL is something that's on our radar, and the ability to talk about with people who are involved in that is really important. We have a lot of Australian players, and a lot of Australian media knows full well that the IPL is setting the trajectory of one of the nation's most important sports, which is cricket. So we're looking forward to talking about that in not just the obvious way, but seeing it as part of really the hyper eyes of the Indian consumer.
Yeah, and just lastly, Daniel, I mean, objectives is one thing, but what are the steps that the New South Wales government is taking? And if I may ask, what might you expect from the Indian side as well to kind of accelerate this the trade relationship between the two countries, because a lot of people might think that it's still a bit subpar, given that there is such great people to people connect, two democracies, shared values, and yet India is only Australia's fifth largest trade partner and way behind countries like America and China. So any changes or anything that you would like to say with regards to policy, both from the New South Wales side as well as the Indian side?
Yeah, I think that both sides need to realize the opportunities that are presented by the free trade agreement. And the free trade agreement is a milestone. It has been the framework we've needed for both sides to have a bit more confidence that this is a relationship that's going to endure. I think I've said on your program before, I've certainly made no secret in my view, this relationship has been undercooked for a long time. It's a relationship that has predominantly been led by people to people exchange with the diaspora on both ends, forging the links with government, with business, and with culture catching up behind them. And I think that dynamic is going to continue. I don't think that that's going to be a dynamic that will be turned around in the short term, but I do think that delegations and missions like we're about to embark upon are crucial in trailing in the tailwinds that the diaspora has created as well, and to demonstrate that this is a very serious part of our growth story for New South Wales. Also, this mission is taking place at a time where there are some people in both sides, but particularly in Australia as well, that are asking questions about whether or not our modern multicultural society is a weakness or a strength. And this mission says unambiguously that it is a strength, and that it's a huge advantage we have in the region that we have so many people from around the world who speak so many different languages that call New South Wales home, and that is a secret superpower of this state. That means we can get ahead in a global marketplace. I know full well that there are countries in our region that would envy and do envy the very strong multicultural society that we have built here. And this is a big part of our nation's strength, and we shouldn't talk it down. And as a nation of 28 million people, we're 1.8% of the world's population, with 3.5% of the world's economy. We produce double what we can consume. So it's in our interest for there to be free and open trade markets. And I know I said that was my final point. I have one more, which is world trade right now is being upended, and it is quite an uncertain time. And I think one lesson that we all have learned is that you can't depend on one or two trade relationships. You need to have many in order to survive the trials and tribulations that each of them propose. There's no doubt in recent years that we've had have really robust questions with some of our trade partners, including the United States, including China. And therefore, I do think it's really important that Australia continues to develop and expand its trade relationships across the world. India is an important part of that, but so is the European Union, so is Japan, so is Korea. And this is a good example, I think, of the New South Wales government as the biggest state with the biggest economy by far in the nation, just demonstrating to everybody that we can choose our future a bit, and we can continue to develop markets for New South Wales goods, but also to take advantage of the strengths that we have built by being an open, tolerant, multicultural state.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to touch actually on the strategic point as well, that, having strong relations with India actually in the long term also serves a strategic objective, I would think.
Yeah, and this is the reason why India is part of the quadrilateral relationship that we have with Australia, with Japan, and the like as well. It's a very important strategic anchor. I mean, we think of ourselves, and particularly here in New South Wales, we are a Pacific power, and we conditioned ourselves to think in terms of the Pacific Ocean, but the Indian Ocean is just as important. This is a point my colleagues in West Australia often make, that they live in the Indian Ocean world and we live in the Pacific world. But the reality is it's a huge strength that Australia is in both. And we should be thinking very hard about the opportunities that are presented in both those ecosystems as they become more enmeshed with each other, but they all become more enmeshed with us as well. And I don't think we should talk ourselves down. I mean, the bit that disappoints me the most about our domestic debate is this sense that somehow Australia and New South Wales can't compete and win on global stages. That's just not true. And
True.
we can, and we do all the time. And I think that this trade mission, it's a very important plank in a much broader strategy that will endure well after we've left office. When the Premier and I are no longer in these jobs, these relationships will survive and these relationships can thrive.
Yeah. And just lastly, are you, on a lighter note, are you looking to eat some favorite dishes in India? Is there something in
Yeah, of
particular you?
course. I mean, of course. I mean, I already have mapped out where I want to eat in which city. I mean, I got to tell you, in Delhi, my focus is going to be very heavy on the Golgappas, as well. In Mumbai, it's the pav bhaji. I'm looking for some good dosas as well. So I'm going to see which city does the best dosa of the three.
All right. Thank you so much, Daniel, and thank you so much for your time and have a great time in India. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time.